All right, guys, let's talk about how many cold calls does it take to get a land deal. If you guys don't know, for the last year and a half or so, become quite passionate about cold calling. Been learning a lot, been teaching hundreds of people our cold calling process inside of Leah 2.0. So I've gotten a good amount of data here that I'll share. Now, before we actually reveal the numbers, this is pretty cool. This is a post from a gentleman inside of Leah 2.0. His name's Chandler. Joined Leah, I think, in February of this year. What's really cool, and just quick side tangent, he's a salesperson. That's what he does for work, works a sales job, part-time in the land business. He's cold calling. He's actually using a company called Dirt Dialers to do his cold calling for him, so dirtdialers.co, which is a company that I co-own. And then he's just, Dirt Dialers is generating the leads. He's picking up the phone and calling people. And I think this is really dope because what it shows is, one, I think cold calling is the best marketing channel right there with direct mail for beginners to start with, because just the quality of leads it brings in. But the other thing is, like, dude, if you're not afraid to pick up the phone and call people, you can literally you can do a lot of deals even part-time. Like, a lot of people say they don't have time in this business. No, you just don't have confidence to pick up the phone. And that's true if you're doing cold calling yourself, which you can totally do. You don't need to pay someone. If you have time, you can do it yourself. But even same thing with, like, getting cold call leads sent to you, you still have to pick up the phone and call people. So the division here, you've got cold calling, okay? That's one side of the equation. But the other side of the equation, we have what I'm going to call AP. Okay. And so that's our acquisition process. So this is what generates the hand waving, right? Someone raises their hand, a seller, and they say, hey, I'm interested in selling. And then it's AP that takes the person that raises their hand and then converts them to a signed contract. So you need both of these in tandem. So anyways, pretty dope. 70K pipeline profit. He's shooting for 6 deals by the end of the month, which is pretty awesome. These 3 deals have all come from, I believe, the last 30 days. He started using Dirt Dialers last month. So pretty freaking awesome. Anyways, let's talk about it. So if we think about dials, and we're going to use conservative numbers, and I'm going to talk averages here. Your numbers could look slightly different. If we think about how many dials does it take to get a land deal, I would say for most people, if you're using like an overseas caller or something of that sort, a safe benchmark to work off of would be like 10,000 dials. Okay. And that's if you're using an overseas caller who maybe isn't super sophisticated or super slick. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you're actually cold calling yourself, which we teach inside of Leah how to cold call yourself, if you're doing that yourself, the math could look totally different. In fact, it's very possible that you could get one deal per 1,000 or 1,500 dials, especially if you're filtering your data correctly. Okay. If you're using some kind of like lead scoring, like seller IQ, or some way to filter motivation through your data, and you're like really sniping your data, if you're cold calling yourself, dude, it could be 1,000 dials per deal, 2,000 dials per deal. I would still recommend using a dialer. We use Ready Mode. And the cool thing is, actually, a couple of years ago, I did this myself. I cold called myself for about a month. I did it for 2 to 3 hours a day. I was making maybe 100 dials a day at most. And I picked up 2 deals in Joshua Tree, California. Over that 30-day period, I made like whatever, 20, 25 grand. And this is a strategy I'm really bullish on for people that are starting and they have the excuse of like, I don't have a lot of money. No problem. If you have some time, we're going to have you start calling yourself. So you're going to start as your own cold caller. Okay. Then you're going to do that for, let's say, 90 days. If you do that for 90 days and you've got the right script, the right process, you understand acquisitions, underwriting, there's no reason you can't go get a deal that's going to make you, call it 20 grand. Totally fair. Now, you don't go out and buy yourself a Rolex, or you don't go get all excited and go pop it in the club. You take that $20,000, you put it right back into the business. But instead of paying yourself as a cold caller, you take that money and you actually hire your own cold call team. And then you go do more deals, and then you get 40K, and then you keep on doing, you just kind of recycle. And so you can start with very little money, a couple $1,000, and make this work. So anyways, I'm very excited about that process that we've been teaching in Leah. It's not something you should do forever, but it's a great way to start. Now, how many leads does it take per deal? What we're seeing right now is something like 32 leads, give or take, in the CRM to one signed contract. So that's pretty consistently what we're seeing. Um, Now, this is an interesting metric, which is contract sent to contract signed. I would say industry average for like general land investors factoring in all marketing channels would be like 15%, 10 to 15%. And that's for all marketing channels, right? The cool thing with cold calling is I see it that it's consistently higher than that. I would say it's somewhere between 20 all the way up until 30%. Now, that's assuming you've got the right acquisition process, the right offer creation process. There's a lot of assumptions there. But assuming you're doing all of that correctly, cold calling brings in like really, really qualified leads, at least compared to RVMs, texting, whatever it may be. Now, we need to be very, very clear. Texting, or not texting, calling. Oh my God, that's so bad. Calling is still a funnel. That is the worst funnel ever. What I mean by that, though, is you hear me talking about it, you might be getting excited about the idea of calling. That's awesome. But don't think that it somehow magically just gives you hot leads. There's no marketing channel that's just going to serve up bottom of funnel hot leads. What you're going to get is a spectrum. You're going to get some top of funnel leads from any marketing channel. And those people are like, dude, I just started thinking about selling. I might be interested in selling. Great. We still want to talk to those people because top of funnel leads, when nurtured correctly, turn into bottom of funnel leads. Some of our best deals, the sellers actually start up here and they don't have a lot of urgency. They don't have a lot of motivation, but I want to bring those, still want to bring those into my CRM. And then, 1 out of 50 leads, 75 leads, the person's literally bottom of funnel. They're like, dude, I'm a day away from losing my property to tax auction, or I've got an IRS lien. I've got to sell this thing now. But we don't deliberately just try to target those people. And we're not under the faulty impression that you can build a business just off of bottom of funnel leads. And a lot of people think that. It's totally wrong, right? Totally wrong. So you need a process, again, your acquisition process, to deal with leads at every stage of the funnel, and then just learn how to move them through the funnel. So cold calling is no different. The reason that I love cold calling, though, compared to other channels, is one, trust. You get leads with a lot more trust. Oh my God, that is so bad, because they've already spoken to someone, right? Imagine getting an unsolicited text message versus someone calls you, you have a 25-minute conversation with them. There's a lot more trust there. And trust is one of the biggest things that you have to overcome in this business. Building trust at scale with strangers, essentially. The other thing that I like about cold calling, and I don't really know the best way to phrase this, we're just going to say M, and M stands for malleable. What I mean about cold calling is it's malleable on two fronts. One, it's malleable in the sense that I've tested this. It works with $1,000 properties. It works with $1,000,000 properties. And I'm sure it works with $10 million properties, although I haven't tested that. That's not true for every marketing channel. So it's malleable to the price point. It still is relevant, still works. If you send someone a text message on a $10 million property, they're going to be like, who's this idiot, right? So it's very flexible in that sense. It's also malleable, though, to where you're at as a land investor. So if you're just starting out, like we determined up here, dude, you can do it yourself. Get ready mode, start calling yourself, use Land Insights, pull lists, call, right? Use the DNC scrubbing, stay safe, call. You could also say, hey, I want to use an agency. Great. There's a done for you option. Or you could say, hey, I'm a sales savage. I understand sales, so I'm going to go build my own cold calling team. There's not a lot of marketing channels that offer that kind of flexibility. Right? It can meet you exactly where you're at, which I think is wonderful. So anyway, super bullish on cold calling. Hopefully this provides some context for you guys. I get this question a lot. I think one thing too that we do really well, like if you like this kind of content, this is exactly how we coach and lead inside of Leah. And this is exactly how we take either brand new people that are brand new to the industry or people that have been in the industry are struggling, how we take those two groups of people and scale them up into consistent, profitable land investors, building businesses that do 6 figures a year, 7 figures a year in some cases. Really, sky's the limit. And so this is actually a Leah member that just joined, and she's like, oh my God, I literally, I can't believe the level of depth and understanding. And that's because we don't teach theory. We don't teach you the 30,000 foot view of land investing. We teach you the mechanics and we install it into your business. So if you guys want to learn more about that, you just go over to landinvestor.co/YouTube. And last week, actually, we just opened up the ability to do a 90-day game plan call with our team. So 90 days, we'll architect out your business. Again, if you're just getting started, that's fine. If you've been in the business, also relevant. So anyways, landinvestor.co/YouTube. Hope this video served you. Peace and love.